Hello, this is Hilary Robertson. Welcome to the latest episode of Harmonious World. This time I'm joined by sax player Dean Tsur. His album Live from Lockdown was recorded in Israel in November 2020. It had a full film and audio crew and featured a blended audience, so in-person technicians and an online audience. Not only does it feature Dean on sax, but also Jonathan Riklis on piano, Gaspar Bertoncelli on drums, and Tal Ronan on bass, with special guests Yael Shapira on cello and Hagar Meos on violin. And I started this episode with an extract from Loves You Porgy from Live from Lockdown. This is a straight-ahead jazz album in many ways, but it also has something real and live as it's recorded during lockdown. The tracks include Salt Peanuts, All of Me, I Loves You Porgy, Spring Can Really Hang You Up the Most, and Fly Me to the Moon. And it is the version of I Loves You Porgy which I find the most stunning. So I'm looking forward to talking to Dean shortly, and I hope you enjoy our conversation too. Hey.
Hi, Hilary.
Right, okay, so welcome to Harmonious World. It's really nice to be talking to you. So the whole point of Harmonious World is to share what you're good at. I've obviously listened to Live from Lockdown. It's a proper jazz album, isn't it?
Yeah. So it started from I wanted to do a release party for my previous album during lockdown with all of the difficulties around that. And so I wanted to organize something with one of the clubs around here. And as I was talking to some people, I started talking with Baraka Weiss, who is the artistic director of the Tel Aviv Jazz Festival. And it was kind of a coincidence that he was about to organize some other event with the Israeli Jazz Society, who is like they're organizing concerts around here. So they had this whole really nice setup with a club and like great film crew and everything. I'm assuming you only listened to the audio.
Yeah.
We also have like really nice video. So I used that as a platform to my CD release party. And then we ended up, so I wanted to do something a little different. And in the album, I had this theme of strings, because I had strings on the one of the songs, and then another song we did like strings like in post production. Anyway, so I had this like motif of strings, but it was just the beginning of this idea. I didn't really exploit it to its fullest. So I wanted to write a little bit more. So I wrote some arrangements with the amount of time that I had, but I wrote some string arrangements for the concert, and it ended up being really nice. So just getting the chance to work with strings and to work with a band after a really long time that we didn't really get a chance to play. I mean, that was my first performance of 2020. It was in November.
Wow.
So, yeah. Since then, I've had some some live broadcast stuff that I've done, but that was the first one. So it was really nice. Yeah, it was just a good energy, getting to play with everyone. Some friends from Israel I haven't played with in a long time because I was in New York. And yeah, and I got reconnected with some the string players, this violin player who I went to art high school here with. So it was just it was a nice reunion, and it was really fun. And yeah, and we figured it came out really well, so we might as well make it put it out.
It's a lovely album. How did you go about choosing the tracks you were going to do?
I was kind of actually looking back. I was listening back to the album I released in November, The Moments of Inspiration, and I was kind of rethinking the whole idea of an album, and in Moments of Inspiration was a collection of different recordings from different times, and I tried to put them together, but I wasn't approaching it like a concert. I was really approaching it more. I was thinking about what's special about the album, what I want to be like people to hear first, and then, which is, valid consideration. But now with this one, I mean, with it being a concert, I figured I think, like moving forward, I'm gonna do that. Like really think about an album like a show. I think in general, my approach is like I want to. I want the album to be a record, like of a live performance, not the other way around. I don't want the album to be the main, if
Right,
that makes
that's
sense.
interesting. Yeah.
So I figured, I'm just gonna create a good show, a good set order, whatever flows with the energy, and the general flow is almost more important than to me than each of the individual songs. So just making sure there's a good flow.
It does feel like a real album that's made from a gig
Hmm.
and not, I think sometimes it would be easy for artists. I don't know how often they do it, but it feels like they have done it, where they take performances and they don't necessarily put them in the same order on the album.
Right.
Think of it in a different way. And I think this doesn't feel like that. And I have to say, the track that I absolutely love is your version of "I Loves You Porgy."
Oh yeah. Thank you.
That is just beautiful. Those strings at the beginning.
Yeah. The song is so good.
Yeah, well, yeah, Gershwin can do no wrong, but even so, it's not as well known as something like "Summertime," but it's just a beautiful love song, and that's a great performance of it.
Thank you.
So, can I ask you, were the cellist and the violinist, are they used to doing jazz, or are they mainly orchestral players?
Don't know. I don't know if I know enough of their, full resumes, but I know that Yael, the cello player, she recorded with a lot of different groups of both jazz. So she recorded with Avishai Cohen,
Oh, oh, right.
and I know she's played with a lot of different, like more popular artists also. So she has this kind of like commercial, you know, uh,
Yeah.
experience, as well as classical. And she obviously has a lot of orchestral experience. And I think Hagar, the violin player, is more has more of a like orchestral traditional background. I'm sure she's done a lot of different things also, but yeah.
In the performance and the rehearsal before the performance, they obviously knew what they were doing.
Obviously, yeah, we had
Yeah.
yeah, and we actually did two performances. That we did another one 2 days later. So we got it was kind of like a process, but we did some. Obviously I worked with them also. There's like a string soli that I wrote on All of Me that I
Yes, yes. In fact, I've written that down as well. That's another one. Yeah.
Yeah, I basically just wanted to write like a jazz soli. I didn't want them to play like strings all the time. So, so it's interesting for them and it's cool for us to hear like a jazz, something that's a little different. So it's just like I thought about it like a saxophone or like a trumpet soli. And yeah,
Yeah, it's more like a sax soli,
yes.
that you get in the middle of those things, that where the composer sat there and gone, right, guys, now is the time you have to work.
Yeah.
None of this just sitting back and getting on with it.
I was like, you got it. Like, come on, play the blues. Like.
Absolutely. It's just a lovely addition, isn't it? The strings add to your usual quartet, that in a beautiful way. So are those guys, the other three guys, do you work with them just in Israel, or do you work with them in the States?
So I've worked with them, I think, only in Israel. Maybe with Tal, the bass player, we've played together in another band in New York. But all three of them have lived in New York for long periods of time. So Tal is still living in New York. Right now he's in Israel, but I think he's gonna go back at some point. Tyler plays with Russell's band.
Oh, right.
Um, so he tours with them regularly. And Gasper is originally from Slovenia, um, and he used to live in New York for many years. But I only met him in Israel. He married an Israeli woman, so
Right.
um, I know him from here. And Jonathan is a piano player. Jonathan Riklis. I know him from many years ago in Israel, just from like jazz camps. He's a little older
Right.
than me, but I know him.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. So tell me a little bit more about your background. So you've obviously got this, you were brought up in Israel, is that right?
Yes. So I'm originally from could say like a really small town in the north of Israel, rural. And I heard my parents are they love jazz, so we had a lot of jazz, like a lot of Louis Armstrong, Ella Fitzgerald, Ray Charles, stuff like that. It was played, in the house, and I was just curious. I asked to play saxophone when I was, I think, first grade. And we went to my parents were really supportive, and we went to the conservatory, and they said I was too small to play the saxophone. So they had me play recorder for 2 3 years before I could switch. So I survived the recorder period, and I made it to the saxophone.
Right. And you didn't do the progression to clarinet and then saxophone. You just went straight to saxophone.
No, is it more common in the UK to do that?
Yeah, yeah. Or certainly I think it was because that's the route I did. Certainly in the sort of 80s, 70s, 80s, if you wanted to be a sax player, you only came to it via clarinet.
Hmm.
But now more and more people are going, no, I just want to play the saxophone. So here's a saxophone. And did you pick up the others? Do you double?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I started playing. So I did an army service in the army orchestra in
Of
Israel.
course, because you have to, don't you?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in the army, I was in the beginning. I played in the army orchestra, and then I didn't like it anymore. So I asked to go to switch to there was an instrument lab there.
Oh,
It's really nice, and they just needed someone to kind of watch it and fix instruments once in a while.
right.
So I did that in my last year of the army. So I did 3 years. 2 years I played, and then the last year I was at the lab, and I had access to all the instruments there.
Ah, right.
And those were nice instruments too. It's just like new, like Buffet R13s and new Miyazawa like solid flat.
Wow,
Yeah.
yeah.
Those were my first instruments.
You were spoiled.
Yeah,
Oh, brilliant. So,
yeah.
did you find going from a saxophone embouchure to a clarinet embouchure, did you find that weird? Or do you, I mean, I don't want to get too technical for people who aren't, who don't get that, but, how did you find that? How did you work that out? Did you have lessons and, stuff?
Um, I didn't really have lessons. When I was at Juilliard, I had like practice sessions with classical clarinet players a little bit. I think I'm definitely a saxophonist first, and I want to make sure I can kind of go back and forth. So my clarinet sounds a little bit like a saxophone. uh,
Yeah.
but so it's not. I don't get the traditional, but I kind of found instead a way to connect with the New Orleans
Right. The
sound.
trad. Yeah.
Right, the trad, because I feel like the way they play the clarinet is a little bit more similar,
Yeah, I agree.
like with
Yeah.
the angle and the
Yeah.
vibrato, and like so the
Yeah.
lower register, getting that Bechet, like half
Yeah.
like soprano saxophone, half clarinet sound.
Yeah. Okay. So then you went to Juilliard after your military service.
By the way of Berkeley, I was there just for a year and a half.
Okay.
But it was yeah, it was nice there too. I studied with George Garzone, and I had like some experience studying with Hal Crook.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, wow. That must have been amazing. So when the pandemic hit, were you in New York then, or were you in Israel at that point?
I came to Israel right before it started,
Okay.
and I was supposed to go back,
Yeah.
and
And then
yeah,
you couldn't.
I couldn't, and I I had like a few shows planned in Arizona that I was supposed to go to, and then something in New York. And the Arizona plan started kind of like it wasn't clear if it was gonna happen or if it's gonna be, if it's gonna be well enough attended
Oh, okay. Yeah.
because of this whole situation. So it started, and then basically there was no reason later on, there was no reason to go back because everything was shut down anyway. So I ended up
Right.
just staying in Israel and ended up, getting settled over here over time. I ended up staying, and now everything is opening up over there in New York, and I don't know if I'm even.
So that was my going to be my next question. Sort of where next? Where are you? Have you got gigs booked? You said you've been doing some online, but have you got any real ones booked?
I've been doing a lot of live broadcasting. Things are still closed over here. I mean, the clubs are just starting to open up. So yeah, that's most of what I've been doing. I've been recording. I recorded some for a TV show last week. But it's like I'm freelancing, so every week is different.
Okay, so I understand you've been organising some concerts out in the open air in Tel Aviv. Can you tell me about those?
Yep. So basically, it all started from just me wanting to play and missing playing in front of people and for people. And we had some, I had some other friends I was talking to about this. And in Israel, it's not very common to play on the street the way it is in New York, I think. I mean, New York, not necessarily on the streets, but at Central Park, usually there's a lot of musicians playing. But in Tel Aviv, it's pretty rare. And so, I was actually seeing videos from people playing in New York that inspired me. I was like, all right, if like I saw this video of my friend that I played with a lot, playing on the street, and when Marsalis came by and played, I was like, okay, we need to
Wow.
play. So I was like, okay, this is a special time. We need to play for the people, and you know, um, so we went to the square, just a bunch of musicians, and started playing, and the response was really very unique. I mean, to this time, I don't think any other time we would have had that response. Just everyone, just everyone was stopping by and just so grateful. And so at the end of the set, and people started sitting around us, and then we just because of that response, we decided to just keep doing that. So we did that a few more times, and all of a sudden, some dancers saw us, swing dancers saw us playing. He started reaching out to me, and I've done some shows in New York too with dancers. I've wrote some music, like I've written a show for music and dance, and I wrote the dance parts a little bit too. So I had some experience with that, and some people I know here who are dancers, swing dancers. So started talking to them too, and they started coming, and now it's been growing. Like we now there was another lockdown, but we just got out of it a few weeks ago. So now we started it again, and I've never had like this kind of response. I think even just like performing at jazz clubs and stuff like that I've done so many times. Um, I've never seen that kind of enthusiasm from people to just come by, and like it's really like it's a party kind of situation that is, yeah, it's really cool. And dancers are like, last time we did it, there were maybe like, I don't know, like 40 dancers or something. It's like a lot.
Wow.
Yeah, it's nice. It's just the whole square becomes like a jazz club, jazz
That's
festival.
fantastic. That's great. Have you had any pushback from the kind of council or the authorities or whatever? Have they kind of said, oh, we're not sure about this?
So the first day we played, Tel Aviv is kind of funny. It's kind of like New York. It's like every time we play, there's some like sort of celebrity or someone that comes by. So the first time we played, the vice mayor, not yeah, of the city, he showed by it, and I know that he's like an artist in his background before he became. So anyway, so he came by, and I didn't even see him. But at the end of the show, I saw that he tipped us because it was like electronic tips. So I saw that he tipped us. So I reached out to him. So I'm trying to make it more formal. But yeah,
Yeah.
we didn't have any pushbacks. I think everyone's, and it's kind of isolated. There's no one that it could really bother.
And it's up to people that it's their own responsibility to stay socially distanced, and that's not your remit. You're just providing the music. So
Yeah, I've been saying it in the advertisement. I've been saying that people should keep the distance and wear masks and all that. So we're trying to keep it as safe as possible, while
brilliant.
also trying to bring some music to the people in these times.
Wow, that's fantastic. Because actually, everywhere you go, I mean, I don't go very, very far, but in my hometown, even we've had, not at the moment because we're in quite a strict lockdown, but that finishes, I think, sort of mid-April. We're there at the moment, they're saying, and I think then we'll start to have more music. And you miss walking past places and just hearing music coming out, and it's just not the same through a screen.
Yeah,
Oh,
I've never had this kind of I don't know. I've never had this kind of feeling about just like experiencing this connection with the audience and just myself, just playing with people. I've never felt that kind of thing before this whole time started. Just like, yeah, I'm really appreciating the social significance of like being a musician, more than ever.
I think a lot of us took it for granted before. A year ago, we were just kind of, well, this is what we do. And, we either play or we listen. And, we just didn't think.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, I'm hopefully. Last summer I was supposed to be. I had some tours lined up, and then everything got canceled. So we'll see as with my band. So we'll see. I was about to like start planning it. I was gonna plan it for the next summer, but things were so unclear, so it didn't really make sense. Like just talking to people.
Mm,
It was supposed to be a tour in Asia, and
right.
like talking to people, figuring out all the dates and everything when everything is so unclear doesn't really make sense. So I don't know. Now when things are starting to open up, maybe I should start setting up everything again. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining me. It's a real pleasure to talk to you.
You too. Thank you. Bye.
Okay. Bye. Well, that was my conversation with Dean Tsur, and I hope you enjoyed listening to it. I'm going to finish shortly with Dean's version of Round Midnight from Live from Lockdown, and that's just a stunning piece of music. Meanwhile, thank you for joining me once more on Harmonious World, and I look forward to speaking to you soon. Now we're in season 4, and I hope this finds you well wherever in the world you are. All my social media links are in the show notes, so please find me, tell me what you think of Harmonious World, and I hope you enjoy my future episodes. I have some great interviews lined up. Thank you for listening to the latest episode of Harmonious World. My name is Hilary Seabrook, and it's a great delight to bring this series of discussions with musicians and composers and writers and all sorts of people to you. Obviously, there's no point in having a podcast if people aren't listening, and I'm very grateful to my listeners for doing so. Thanks also to Joe English for composing and performing this new theme tune. So wherever you get your podcast, you can leave a review. You can share this with your friends and family, either as a link or on social media and that sort of thing. I'd be really grateful for that. Don't forget that you can subscribe now. There's a link wherever you get your podcasts. So have a great week, and please remember why I started this, which is just to try and make the world a little more harmonious. Thanks for listening to Harmonious World.